And this is where we welcome on stage Jayshree Naidoo, and she'll be talking about leading change through innovation.
But when I was growing up, Alibaba was some fairy tale, right? Alibaba, fairy tale, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Anyone here of that book? Yes. So now Alibaba is one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the world. Okay? A tweet was something that birds make, the sound birds make. Now it's used to communicate every day across the world. We've moved from the cube to the cloud, and this is the type of talent we're bringing into the organization. So recently, I was fortunate enough to attend an entrepreneurship leadership summit for top talent within my organization. This was quite interesting for me because when I received the invite, the first thing I said, well, who's going to be talking about innovation? And I hope innovation is on the agenda. Because many of you would have come across the term entrepreneurship, and I apologize that it's already been covered in some of your content in the day's proceedings. But building a culture of entrepreneurship is actually taking the traits of an entrepreneur, but ensuring individuals in the organization live and deliver through those traits. And that's what makes an entrepreneur different from just an employee. So you've got to have individuals that think very differently, but take ownership of their business. Easier said than done. Because for organizations to nurture that talent within an organization, you've got to give them an enabling environment. So what happens with most talent programs in many of the organizations I've worked at, so I've worked at about 7 or 8 very big companies in South Africa, and it's not because I get bored very easily. It's just, I stopped working in a company when I'm no longer allowed to do what I'm really good at. And that's the reason you lose a lot of talent from an organizational perspective. So what happens with really great leadership development programs, it starts off with the best intentions. It starts off with the intention of developing my top talent. Talent then goes back into the workplace to try and deliver what they have learned, only to find all of the barriers and the blockages to their ideas and to take what they've learned to the next level. So unfortunately, through the years, we have the best intentions. There's a tick on it. Where are all of these HR executives that are sitting here? I know some of you are in the audience. So we start off with the best intentions of developing top talent, ticking that on the scorecard, but we lose talent because we don't create an enabling environment for them to thrive. So I took a definition of an entrepreneur. It's behaving like an entrepreneur while working in a larger organization and turning an idea into a profitable finished product. Now that's something everyone would aspire to do. I read a Forbes article recently, and it talked about leading and leading in a very different way. So there were 5 key areas. As I mentioned, as I was sitting down, I realized I'd really like to add another 5. So I'm going to take you through all 10 in the next few minutes. The first is questioning, and this is about challenging the status quo. Now, one of the things you will find that's common with most entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, so those individuals that are talent. So by the way, talent and entrepreneurs have a very, very close correlation to how entrepreneurs behave. They embrace challenges, but I'll talk through each one of the key drivers. So challenge the status quo. And this is about considering new possibilities, always looking for different ways of doing things in your organization. Again, easier said than done. You find a new way of doing something, you go and speak to your manager says, sorry, not today, maybe next week. And then you say, well, this is going to add value. I can make a difference to the organization. But it's continuously challenging. One of my favorite rules, I heard from a speaker the other day that this is her dad said, and she's all the way from San Francisco, so I thought, oh gosh, I've never met her dad. But never mind, it's one of my favorites as well. It asks for forgiveness and not for permission. Get it? It's easier said than done, right? But it is possible. I've done it a couple of times, and I've lived to tell the tale. So I've never been dismissed. However, I have been given a couple of verbal warnings for bad or challenge the status quo. The next key trait that they mentioned in terms of leading change was observing. And this is about how do you detect the small changes in an organization that you can influence. So I'm not asking the top talent in the room or even the organizations that have to create that enabling environment to allow everything to happen. But you've got to allow the small step changes to happen. So as an organization, as individuals, how do you look for the small changes? What are the tools and techniques you're actually using? And are you bringing in methodologies that can help you find those white spaces that you can leverage off as an individual within a larger organization? Because that's what gets you to the next level. There are special disciplines like human-centered design, designing for your end consumer in mind, or ethnographic studies where you observe people's behaviors and how they use your products and services. And all of this is designed to help you see things in a different light. There's a very easy question that I ask my entrepreneurs when I want to get them to think differently. I'm talking about staff members as well as actual entrepreneurs through several programs that I lecture on. You ask a question like, your company does what? I asked you, is there a roaming mic? I'd like to have a conversation. Are there roaming mics? Okay, so I'll pick on someone that's very close to me and everyone won't make eye contact now. But if I ask you, what does your company do? So the lady here, what does your company do? If you shout at me, I should be able to hear you and I'll repeat it. Yes.
Do you want me to stand up?
Yes, and tell me what your company does.
Okay, I'm Arti Moore. I'm celebrating Humanity International. We work internationally throughout South Africa, transforming corporate culture with boards of directors.
So that's interesting, right? So you're transforming corporate culture with boards of directors. But if I asked you, your company is a way of doing what? So it's a way of doing what?
Well, changing the mindsets of people.
Okay. So when I ask you the two questions, your answer is very different. Okay? And that's what's take a seat. So that's just the principle behind this. If I ask someone, what do you do? And what you do is a way of doing what? The responses you get is very, very different. Okay? It changes the way you look at the end product. It changes the way you design your products and services. So observation is actually very, very important. So I want to keep that mic going. I might ask you other questions in between. Not you, I'll pick on somebody else. Okay. The third one is networking. I heard one of your rising stars that was up here mention networking. So networking is actually one of the ones that were published as well. It's absolutely critical. One of the programs that I delivered at GIFS was all around personal branding and power networking. And why do we need to teach high-performing individuals to network? They're obviously high-performing because they have networked, but not everyone networks in the right way. So I'll give you an example. Unfortunately, most of you are here, so from a human capital perspective, there might be a whole lot of individuals here. If there's a human capital conference, that's the type of conference you're attending as well. The way most individuals think about their development. So there was a gentleman that was producing books on your life stages. Have you seen these picture books? Anyone? Picture books? So picture books are books that you create on your life and you get little pictures and stories, so you keep it as a memento. Unfortunately, he was trying to get these books sold at almost every conference that was related to literacy. Now that's not the place he would get the most amount of buyers for his books. He'd probably get it at the Baby and Dava. But he wouldn't think to go to the Baby and Dava because the field that he focuses in is on books. But where the purchases are for his books is actually at the Baby and Dava. So I've stopped attending innovation conferences because most people there are networking with other innovation managers and consultants trying to do the same thing. And unfortunately, you want to gain learning from a conference that you attend. Another example is, if making bridal gowns, what's the first place you would go to sell your bridal gowns? So if this is either making or selling second-hand bridal gowns, what's the first place instinctively an entrepreneur would go to sell their bridal gowns? At the bridal fair. People attending the bridal fair are not there to buy second-hand bridal gowns. They're going there to look at the fine china, amazing stuff that they can get access to. So the place, again, that she'll be able to get more purchases for second-hand bridal gowns is actually the baby fair. Because we don't always do things in the order that it was designed, right? So networking by finding the right places to network is absolutely critical. The fourth one that they mentioned was actually called experimenting. And I love this because it's not my job in my current role, but what I have been doing since I started is helping individuals in the organization to think very differently. And this is all about trying new things, taking them apart. It's often said if something's not broken, leave it alone, it's working just fine. But we actually teach individuals, if something's not broken, tear it apart and put it together and see what else you can do with it or how else it can work if you put it together in a very different way. Because if you don't break your systems, and if you don't try new things, and if you don't cannibalize your own products, somebody else will. So this is about introducing different tools and techniques. Currently, we are looking at even introducing innovation as a leadership competency. Because you have to get individuals to think differently. Our school system, unfortunately, has broken. They've broken my kids. I don't know what your kids or those of you that have kids. But we don't allow our kids to think differently. We don't allow them to question. We don't allow them to challenge. Then they get diagnosed ADHD. Some of you have heard of all of those things. So it's very, very frustrating, right? But this is what characterizes individuals now that question and are disruptive and ask of new ways of doing things continuously. But we want to teach that. We want to reteach that. So what's fascinating for me as well is, and I've been through a few organizations and I've assisted with a couple of induction programs as well, is our school system teaches, so it unteaches you how to think. And the first thing you do in an induction program with the talent that you bring into your organization is you tell them, give me your ideas out of the box, give me your disruptive, new, radical thinking. I want new ideas on how to take this business forward. It doesn't work because they have forgotten how to think differently. They top talent in terms of academic results and achievements. But in terms of questioning and thinking and breaking, it's not the culture that we promote from a school system perspective. So we need to reintroduce that. The fifth that was spoken about is associational thinking. And this is about moving away from groupthink. So in order for you to lead change to innovation, you've got to start conversations with very different people in the organization. You can't ask the same people the same question and expect a very different viewpoint from your own. You might as well sit down and have a conversation with yourself. I know it sounds ridiculous. But in order to get a different viewpoint, you've got to change the individuals around the table. Now, based on your conversation, I've added a couple. A lady in the room, I think she's left, but she spoke about being humble. So there's a difference between being humble and being arrogant. So one of our values is guarding against arrogance, but don't be shy of your achievements. So when you're top talent and when you have gone through all of the obstacles to get you to where you need to be, please don't be shy of your talent. Don't be shy of your achievements. And not being shy of your achievements is actually telling a story for others that might want to follow a similar path. Because if every one of us that has been talented in an organization grew and we didn't share those stories, there would be no path for others to follow in our footsteps. Sorry, ma'am, I think you are sitting in the back there with regards to being humble. And so move away from, don't be arrogant, but don't be shy of your achievements either. And then, I'm just trying to understand my own handwriting. Number 7, that I've added as well, is embrace opportunities. So don't shy away from opportunities either, and embrace every opportunity. So I'll give you a very quick example. In my second month in the role that I'm currently in, and as I said, my role is in innovation, so it's not really public speaking or keynote addresses, but in my second month, the head of marketing sent me a mail and said, would you please be so kind as to present at a women's event? I said, sure, no problem. I went to Cape Town, I got back, and I said, let me read the brief, because it was the day of the event. So let me read the brief. It was actually the top woman in business and government awards, and it was about 900 people and top billion. The one thing, I don't mind standing up in front of thousands of people, but the one thing I am terrified of is TV. So I've always been terrified of TV. So I was like, oh my gosh, I started getting sweaty palms and everything else, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to see this as a challenge, and I'm going to embrace it. So embrace opportunities, because that for me was an opportunity to position what we were doing as an organization on a platform that will get brand mileage across so many different streets and so many different organizations. So embrace opportunities. Number 8 is learn from others and seek out talent. So most of you are here because you already top talent, so I might not be speaking to the right individuals. However, if there are other individuals that come to you, and that actually couples with number 9 about applying your learning and developing others. One of the ladies that was a talent up here already said it. Take others along with you. Don't be afraid to develop others. This is something that I have always found challenging in a corporate context, where we are willing to grow within an organization, but when someone calls and says, are you willing to have a cup of coffee with me? I just want to understand, what is it you do? What can I learn from you? It's about making the time for those individuals. So you've really got to learn from others, seek out talent, but because you are talent, please develop others and apply your learning. And organizations that are here, please allow your teams to apply their learnings. So one of the most frustrating things for me is when I run sessions at any of the academic institutions, is when my delegates say to me, but when we get back to the office, we're not allowed to practice this. So what happens is you spend huge amounts of money on developing your staff. So we send them on these beautiful management development programs, executive development programs, global programs, come back into the office, they stand up in a boardroom, they pull out their flip chart, they just draw that fishbowl, you know that fishbowl I'm talking about. And everyone goes, oh my goodness, here they go again. Want to do an MBA, now we want to suffer. Okay, so it is a challenge because individuals that learn these skills have to be allowed to apply these skills. It makes no sense when you develop people in new tools and techniques, but you don't create an enabling environment for them to use this. So please apply your learning and push forward. If you can't use it in your normal team meetings, then bring a group together. Create a focus group. Use your tools so that you can apply your learning, and it will benefit the organization. And the last one, which is absolutely important, is something that we have just embraced within our team as well. And this is about leading with a purpose. Okay? So leading with a purpose is going to be our next wave of change from an organization perspective. Every individual, there's only so much you will do to feed your bank balance until that's not your driver. Okay? People either work in an organization to earn an income, so to either make money or to make a difference. At some point, the two converge, and you realize one starts becoming more important than the other. And in the country that we live in, and the exciting times that we have ahead of us from an organizational perspective and a growth perspective, I would like to challenge that the next big wave is leading with a purpose. And if you can feel that within your staff, and if you can feel that within teams in terms of how they actually lead with a purpose and the difference they can make, then you would have gone just so much further than what most organizations are doing to answer this age-old question of how do you retain top people. What's the difference we make? In my consulting days, before I actually took on a corporate role, you know they say if you want to reduce your dependency on consultants, you employ them. Okay, but never mind. In my consulting days, when we worked with organizations, what we discovered is one of the biggest drivers of change was actually instilling and enabling an innovation culture and focus. And the reason is for the first time, staff feel that they have a voice. And what you start doing is you start giving them an opportunity to question and to challenge and to change and really add their voice to the bigger picture in terms of what you need to do from an organization perspective. I think I have 5 more minutes, is that right? From a timing perspective? Okay, great. So with that said, I just wanted to tell you that I really like one of the comments that one of your delegates made on we need to get to know CEOs. They need to get to know us. So I'm happy to say, last week Friday, I worked in a makeshift chocolate factory with my CEO. I promised I wouldn't say anything about some of the behaviors that came through from the CEO and others, but there are ways, there are innovative ways of getting the CEO to engage with staff. So I got to make chocolates with my CEO, and I learned quite a bit, okay? Including how not to mess up from a painting perspective because you get into lots of trouble. Also, this embracing social innovations and social entrepreneurships. There's some amazing programs that I'd like some of you to look into in terms of how do you learn from social innovators and social entrepreneurs. So if you have the opportunity to bring these individuals into your organization, and if you have the opportunity to get them to tell their story, I can promise you the entrepreneurs or the emerging entrepreneurs in your organization will gain just such a wealth of insight just from learning from these social entrepreneurs. Because they have been able to embrace challenges, they've been able to find the white spaces, they've been able to grow despite and not because of government support, and they have been able to create successful businesses. One such innovator that I'm proud to be incubating at the moment and mentoring is a lady by the name of Tato, who's currently attending the One Yard World Summit that we have sponsored her trip to. And the reason I bring her up is she's 22 years old, okay? She started a business with one of her partners, taking recycled plastic bags and converting them into bags that kids use with a solar panel that they can then use as a light when they get home. So this is a 22-year-old. But wait, you know those adverts, but wait, there's more. Tato also published a book because she was challenged by Vega School to publish a book in 27 days. And that book was around starting an empire with a brand. Okay? What does she call herself? She calls herself a struggling billionaire. She's a billionaire, but her bank account doesn't know it yet. So I'm going to leave that with you as a final thought, because I really believe that every one of us has the ability to lead change to innovation. But it requires us to change our mindset, to change the way we look at the world, and to break stuff. And don't apologize for failures. Use your failure as a badge of honor, because that's what a failure actually is. It's an opportunity to learn and to grow. So with that said, thank you very much for your attention this late in the afternoon. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay with you till you finish, but I would like to wish you well as you travel home, and if there's any questions, I'll take them now.
Thank you very much, Ted.